Well, I am still thinking about tar, and I want to share with you, as I had said in some of the previous BBCs, that I have spent some of my practice time in the meditation hall really unpacking the 21 tars. And of course, as we're setting our sights on the Buddha hall and the fact that we're going to have a room for Tara, it just got me more inspired to understand who these beautiful manifestations of Tara are. So I'm going to try to get through one or two of the homages today. But before I do that, one of the things that has become really clear to me, it's something that Venerable has said over the course of a number of years here now, is that despite Tara's omniscient mind, which knows and understands all objects of knowledge, whether conventionally their ultimate nature, or in the fact that she can manifest limitless forms in order to be of benefit to sentient beings, provided that we have the karma to receive that benefit, this enlightening activity, there is no way that she can eliminate our suffering. There's no way that she can mitigate the afflictions. There's no way that she can, interfere with the karma. But what I am being able to understand, because if she could have, she would have eons ago. We have to really understand that. We have to meet Tara and the Buddhas halfway. There's no other way to really work with this. That despite the powers they have, it has to come from our side, our own awakening, our own practice, our own transformation. And that I understand, or I'm beginning to see some connection here, that we can meet them halfway in that we have the very same teachings. We have the capacity for the same actualizations that she has in her mind, and that they're available to us through Buddhism, through the Dharma. And that I think that this is a contact point, that as much as we purify, as much as we can transform our minds through the practice of everything from the philosophical text to the Lam Rim to the thought trainings, to be able to use the mantra recitations to calm and focus our minds, and to have these beautiful visualizations in these sadhanas to open up our minds and expand the view of what a Buddha's qualities might be able to manifest as, then I think we've got a contact point where she can guide us, that she can influence, support us in very, very particular kinds of ways. So that's what I think was where the relationship with Tara can happen. But it really does depend on our purification and also the receptivity. Our minds need to be at a level of receptivity that has a sincerity to it. Like Venerable said this morning, the qualities of a student, the curiosity, the open-heartedness, the sincerity, the intelligence, is that it helps us to, we grow our refuge in her and in the three jewels. And so by that way, we create the conditions for the virtuous karma to ripen, where she can sort of wedge your way into our life. She can move herself into our practice to help us to get some clarity, to grow our wisdom, and also on these very kind of practical, powerful ways, the way in which Venerable Sangye Kajo had shared last week about some of the influence that Tara's had in her life. And I wanted to share one of those very particular journeys I've had personally. So one of the homages that I have loved ever since we started reciting this, and it's been, 15, 14 years now here at the Abbey, is the homage, the second one. Homage to you whose face is like 100 autumn moons gathered and blazes with the dazzling light of 1,000 constellations. So this radiant white light that it's referring to is that she liberates beings in a peaceful way. It helps us to pacify our afflictions. As you can see in the homages, that Tara, she comes in many, many different colors, and these colors sort of symbolize her approach sometimes to helping us: peaceful, wrathful, increasing, subduing kind of energy. But with the white, it's a very pacifying, a very, very peaceful way in which she can support us. And it also refers to her very brilliant light, the wisdom of her omniscient mind. So I have always found this metaphor extremely helpful, because where we live, I mean, I don't know about you, but we have the most stellar moonrises that we probably can have on planet Earth. And in particular, because it says here of 100 autumn moons gathered, I think that that time of year, after the dust has settled, in the summertime, the moon's kind of yellow. If we've got so much dust in the air, we've got this eerie kind of orange orb of got wildfires in the area that just rises with this eerie kind of orange color. But in the fall, when we've had some rain, it's not too cold, that moon comes up over those mountains in this kind of luminous, spectacular array. And so I think, when I think of autumn moons, and imagine 100 of these arising from behind the Idaho mountains, with first her Ushnisha with Amitabha on the crown of it, and then her face coming up with these beautiful eyes and this very compassionate smile, and sitting on the mountain there, and to be able, and it's a kind of energy. When I look at the moon, and there are many of moon images in these homages, is that it has a pacifying, luminous, subduing kind of quality. It's a kind of a cooling quality, unlike the sun, which is very bright and dazzling. So I really see that when I imagine her face coming up in this splendor of these moonrises, that I imagine that my fears, my anxiety, and my confusion are pacified by this image. So I wanted to share with you a particular journey that Venerable Chuni and I had. And I don't want to induce any kind of magical thinking like there was some sort of magic or miracle sort of thing happening here. But we did have an experience many, many years ago. Venerable Trinity saying it was a miracle. But that sort of where if your mind is sincere and your mind is frightened and you're vulnerable, but you're open to her kind of help in very kind of practical, external sort of ways, she can really help us. So this happened back, I'm trying to narrow it down, but it was a Thanksgiving. Venerable Tarpa wasn't here yet, so it had to be 2004. Venerable was away. And that was when Barb and Nance were still lay people. Venerable Chuni came up to take precepts. Nerea and I were the only one here, Nerea Keys, So we had our precept lunch, Thanksgiving. It was a beautiful day, and we decided to take a 2-hour hike up Mount Pisgah. 2 hours, all right? We had no food because we had precepts. We had jacket, a vest, a hat on. It was a sunny, glorious day. So we took off, and we headed up that mountain. We thought 2 hours, up 1 hour down, no problem. We'd never been up there before. I'd only lived here 6 months. We'd never been anywhere beyond who knows where. So we get up maybe about halfway up into the hike, and this huge cloud comes over us, darkens the whole area, and we get this very intense snow squall. It is just snowing like crazy, and the sun is kind of peeking in and out of these dark clouds. But it's changed the whole energy of the place. It's gotten cold, it's getting windy, it's starting to stick on the ground. But we weren't deterred. We figured we'd go up to the hill and come back. The sun kind of came out, the clouds were there. We decided to continue on. So to make this rather amazing story a little bit shorter is that we got to the top, came to a dead end, and decided to sort of bushwhack our way down to this game trail and dropped onto a logging trail that we just assumed would take us back around to the Abbey. Because Mount Pisgah is right there. It's not very big, it's not very tall. We should be able to come back before, evening. Well, guess what? We were not going in the direction back to the Abbey. We were going in the opposite direction, and we didn't know that. So we're going along, on and on. It's probably mid-afternoon, late afternoon, maybe starting to share a little bit of anxiety that maybe we're not exactly going where we think. But for some reason, maybe it's because we're two Aries and turning around is not an option, but we decided to just keep our heads down and continue on down the road. It was a fairly big logging trail, but it had a lot of trails off of it, so we were really getting a little confused. So it's getting darker and darker, and it's still a little bit overcast, and in the rural world like this place, when it gets dark to where you can't even see your hand in front of your face. So here are these two women, no food, no water, or maybe a water bottle, and it had been hot. We didn't have, maybe a hat on, maybe a vest, and we were going into night, and it was getting cold, and we had no idea where we were. Miles and miles of logging trails, clear cuts, and we could see the lights of the farms down below, but we're going, let's head down that way, but it didn't help. So somewhere along the line, with the fear and the anxiety starting to build, Venerable Chuni starts belting out the Homage to 21 Tars at the top of her lungs. And I knew some of the verses, but she had it down, and she was just singing it out there. And it's this kind of eerie, dark stillness as the sun is going, whatever's happening with the sun. And she's just belting this out, and I'm kind of humming along as best as I can. We're booking it, you know. She said, let's head down. Let's keep going down. Let's not go off on any of these directions. Heading down, doing these. We must have done, I don't know how many cycles of Homage to 21 Taras. I'm saying the mantra as fast as I can. I'm scared. I mean, the dark kind of makes me crazy already, but. And we also start talking about refuge. We start talking about right now, the state of mind that we're in. How do we generating refuge in Tara? We're vulnerable, we're afraid. We believe that she has the power to protect and help our minds. It helped calm my mind down a lot by doing these homages over and over again. So what was very interesting is that unbeknownst to us, the clouds had all gone away. And coming up over the horizon was the biggest moon that, you know, it's an autumn moon. We had taken precepts. It might have been on the full moon of the month, maybe not. We weren't sure whether, you know, it was just because it was Thanksgiving. We wanted to create merit. It came up and it lit the whole forest floor. So we didn't have to worry about flashlights. We didn't have to worry about groping our way down this logging trail, which was still covered with the snow that had from, you know, the snow squall that had happened. So everything was very reflective. So we could at least see our way and not crawling down this road that we still didn't know where we were. So then as we drop down into this level area where the tree canopy is starting to encroach, so we've gotten down off sort of the logging site, and the moon is starting to throw these moon shadows on the road. So we can still sort of see our way, but it's getting darker and darker again. So just as we're about to lose the light of the moon, we hit the asphalt. I'll tell you, I never was so happy to feel asphalt underneath my feet as we're losing the moonlight. And so we've got county road. We don't know where we are, but we're on a county road somewhere. And just before we're totally back into the groping darkness, because the moon has been left with the tree canopy, through the dark, we see these little flickers of light. So we're like, okay, not only is it asphalt, but there might be some beings, because on these county roads, you can have a half a mile between houses. And so we get closer to the lights, and it's a house that has all these cars in the front yard. Somebody's having a Thanksgiving dinner. So we're not sure we want to crash anybody's party because we've just had this very amazing, intense, maybe 3.5, 4-hour trip in the middle of nowhere. So we walked past them, came to a trailer that had lights on, but it wasn't, there was nobody home. So we backed up and said, we're going to have to crash the party. So we knocked on the door. You know, once again, here's 2 Seattleites. You know, we've never been in rural America. We opened up the door. There's all these cars. I don't know, was it a man or a woman? I don't remember. They welcomed us in, and we said, we are so sorry to bother you, but we have been hiking over the mountain, and we've got ourselves turned around, and we don't know where the heck we are. Come on in. And we walk into this space that's got at least 20 people in it. The football game's on, the country music is playing. They want to offer some buffalo meat, some turkeys, some fresh homegrown beef burgers. But we've had precepts, so we're on with hot cocoa, you know. But the warmth of the love of these strangers. And they said to us, you know, it's amazing that you made it out of there, because some of the guys hunted up there and they said, you have to almost know where you're going. You have to almost flag your way up there because you can get lost. So they were really amazed that these 2 city slickers made their way down that road and found their way home. So we got Nerea to come and get us. They were very kind, very opening and warm-hearted. So it's not magical thinking, but I think there were causes and conditions, maybe a little bit of virtue, maybe a little bit of faith, maybe a little bit of refuge that brought not only the light of Tara's love to guide us out of that predicament, but when she receded into the darkness, we were picked up by the light and the love of sentient beings, which was this very warm kind of golden, welcoming light. No judgment, no anything. They were just more than willing to help us. So I find, you know, whether it was Tara or not, this verse reminds me of that time, and that, you know, we create the causes for these type of small happenings, these sort of small contacts that we can have with the holy beings. So I just wanted to share with you that has deepened, you know, and it came back with this verse. And then the other part of the verse is on the other hand, it says, Venerable's commentary says that when Tara sees sentient beings creating virtue of any form, her face lights up like 1,000 constellations. So here at the Abbey, when the moon isn't shining, we have a planetarium over our heads. And so you imagine all those constellations gathering into this very shimmering, brilliant, radiant light, which is symbolic of Tara's mind that lights up every time she responds to any type of kindness, any type of compassion that we engage in. And for me to kind of tie this together is because of the actualizations and the realizations and the practice in her mind, and because of the realizations and the actualization, whatever we have in our minds, the merit that we are generated, that she knows, her omniscient mind is that close to us, that she knows when we are engaging in virtue, she knows when we're engaging in non-virtue. And she continues to pour this infinite light of love and wisdom upon us and helping us to get some clarity in our minds to be able to understand the Dharma more deeply. And that this radiance that she embodies is also a symbol of her eons of virtue that she has generated as well. So there's another contact point, is that her eons of virtue make contact with whatever virtuous points we have that arise and ripen at any time during the course of the day. So that's one of the 3 verses I was going to share today. That's all I can do, but I love it. It also says that she pacifies infectious diseases. So imagine this luminous, very cooling light of infinite love, healing and clearing all the COVID, all the disease in our world, washing the planet with this very luminous kind of healing light. So because I have one of those very creative minds that likes to conceptualize, and instead of nomtok, I like to use it to be able to create these types of internal experiences where I feel her in this kind of presence. And in response to that, she can show up sometimes in a way that we can connect with her. And so the homages have really brought me much closer to her in this way. And I did want to say that His Holiness has really, we have a little verse here that I want to say, that he has advised us to really continue to practice Green Tara, that she is a pivotal, powerful force in being able to heal the world. But it really depends on us, on our practice, purifying, generating bodhicitta, understanding the emptiness of the 3 spheres, and that we can use the homages to connect with her and strengthen our own courage and fortitude. And that, as Venerable always says, we need to turn our attention to her. She never loses sight of us. We're never out of her purview. And because she is such a powerful, enlightening influence in the world, and His Holiness's wisdom is always a point well taken, that we should really continue, even though we're coming out of the retreat, to keep her in our purview and to continue to do this practice, because we need her, the planet needs her, and that we can really help to keep her, engaged with us as we go through this really difficult time.